What's up, Wargamers? Welcome to episode number 6 of the Drop Podcast. Today we are going to be talking about some stuff that's been happening in the wargaming community and hit you with some news, updates, talk a little bit about some new things that are going on we didn't really talk about the Guard Codex stuff, so I might touch a little bit on that. And I've got with me today Shawn, and Shawn is our 30K man. So Shawn, introduce yourself to the people.
Hey guys, how are you? I'm Shawn, previously of the Seize the Initiative podcast. I've had to go my separate ways with that, and it is over, so I'm very happy that Nate has invited me on to be your 30K correspondent.
Yes.
I've been playing Horus Heresy for about 3 years now, and I've attended not quite a few, but I've attended the capacity to do so, and I've ran 3 Heresy events as well so far. So we're trying to keep Heresy, 3 regular style tournaments, 2 other mega events we did. But
yeah, man, it sounds great. And just earlier today, I was talking a little bit with people that they want to sort of see. In fact, this is actually kind of a good segue into what we can talk about first. Is the 30K stuff. And somebody was talking with us earlier today about how they want to see sort of like a more organized play network for 30K and Horus Heresy events. Of course, not being too familiar with that, I don't know necessarily what is out there or what these guys have going on in Canada and stuff. I know that Ontario's got a pretty big wargaming scene. Do you know anything about those guys?
I don't know anything about Ontario per se, but I know that I know here in America that we need to get more cohesive about it, because in Sweden they run a Heresy network where it's just they've got a site where they come on and they are able to log where an event's going to be, and then big groups of people will meet up and travel, and, and they've got it going pretty cohesively. And I know we have a big distance issue when it comes to many of the other countries that play any of the GW games.
Well, yeah, England is always laughing at us because we state to state it's so many hours for travel, and they travel 6 hours. They're basically at the end of their country.
Yeah, and conversely, we laugh at them when they complain about a three-hour car ride.
Oh, 100%.
Just this last year, I drove 15 and a half hours to play Heresy in Texas. So yeah,
so for you UK people that don't know that pain, it sucks, man.
I mean, and then Adepticon, that was just this year I went for the first time, and here I'm going. That's an 8-hour drive for me where I'm at.
Sure.
We're used to that stuff. We'll make those drives.
Right.
But yeah, I think we definitely need to catch up when it comes to having a more unified community for where events are going on and when they're going on. A lot of people don't know about them. Sure.
I think my ideal sort of dream for that would be maybe if even talking league wise. I mean, I think that a new league maybe could be formed or something could be formed where it brings more players to the game, because let's be honest, a lot of the 40K guys as well, pretty much everybody's got a Space Marine army, okay? There are options for people who are, if you're do I have to just buy all Forge World to play Horus Heresy? You don't. There's avenues that you can get and play Horus Heresy if you traditionally primarily only play 40K. And it's obviously a very enjoyable experience. I don't think that anyone's really losing anything with that. So I think that a lot of the 40K people could be brought sort of into the fold for 30K also. And I don't think that would be too much. What has your experience been with bringing people to Horus Heresy?
So we've got several guys who are Heresy exclusive, and by several, it's 3 or 4 locals, and then I know there's a lot of people in the greater community that are, but the majority of the people that turn up for our events and stuff do play 40K on the regular, and
sure.
They'll either have a separate Heresy army, or a lot of them have kind of done version work and whatnot, and they'll run the armies as Heresy armies.
Yeah. Well, I know, and at least for me, I mean, obviously my Imperial Fist, and actually all the decals I have for my Imperial Fist are the Forge World ones, so they look like they're 30K guys anyway. But what's that?
Sorry, I said those are sick decals as is, so I'd understand.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they looked better, so I'm like, I want to put those on my 40K guys. But I could use the fist transfer over to Horus Heresy pretty well, and then of course, I've got Adeptus Custodes stuff, which serious lack of transports for 40K, which makes me really, really mad. I'm mad that I can't use that dropship in 40K. It is apparently an only 30K only unit, but I want the bikes, and I really want a grav carrier. And the commissar makes fun of me and says that they look like hot dogs, but he can suck one because I think they're so cool looking. I love the Custodes grav tank.
Once you get outside of just Marines, like Marine Legions, a lot of the other stuff transfers over. Like running an Imperial Guard army, there's damn near nothing that you actually have to change.
Huh.
Like Sentinels are legal. You can run battalions of Leman Russ tanks. You can run, I said battalions, I meant squads. And then you can run artillery squadrons. So there's very few, Valkyries don't exist and Chimera don't exist. But other than that, there's very few things that you would have to not use in a heresy list.
Right.
And then there's two separate sort of guard lists.
Is there any 30K exclusive guard stuff?
There is, not really in the militia list, but there's a separate, almost like Militarum Tempestus. They're like the special forces. There's a heresy version of that as well, and they're called Auxilia, and they do have their own heresy equipment. There's
interesting.
A pretty list. But then it's Mechanicum has a whole bunch of stuff that is precursors to Adeptus Mechanicus stuff.
Right.
So, the Castellan robots actually did exist in Heresy, but Castellax robots were used more often. So it's a lot of people done either really cool conversion. It's just a simple transfer is not too bad, especially if you make it look cool enough. But Magos are still Magos.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Well, that's pretty sweet. Yeah. Speaking of the AdMech guys, I did recently buy an AdMech starter box, Skitarii starter box with the Dune Crawl and everything. And I'm trying to paint that up and paint Call up and do a Tech Priest Dominus, Tech Priest sort of list with my Imperial Knight Crusaders. So we'll see how that turns out. I do like the AdMech Codex. I don't know that, just speaking competitive-wise, I would say that the recent release for 40K for the AdMech Codex, I don't know that it's got everything that you would want competitively necessarily, but I think that there is a lot of cool stuff you can do with the stratagems and things in that. And of course, that's been sort of talked to death at this point. The Imperial Guard, I think, and I was reading an article the other day. Andrew Gagno put out an article, the guy that won Nova Open, and he was saying that, when a codex comes out for an army, 85% of it you basically ignore. And there's no matter how good the book is, there's a small percentage of the book that you end up actually using, which I think that's pretty good advice. I think that's fairly sound to say. And I think that generally people, especially who aren't normally playing in competitive environments, don't tend to look at things that way. Does any of that directly transfer over, do you think? Does any of that thinking transfer over for heresy, for books for armies?
I find that just the framework and a way that a common way of list building tends to make it so several things are relevant, but I would still put maybe 30% of the stuff in any of the army lists is almost utter. It's if the whole competitive scene isn't really I'm not sure how to put this. In a narrative event is a narrative event is typically what you'd be going and playing heresy as, so it's going to be story driven, and as certain sides when you're either playing Boylist or Trader, and as your side wins different bonuses and stuff are given out,
right?
And people are still vying to play really well, but a lot of the way that list building is done, it's done around these rights of war, which might make certain things troops and certain things not troops and whatnot.
Right.
Survivability of units that aren't good, but there still is stuff that just generally bringing it, it's it's not really worth it.
Right.
like competitively, like I just most of the games aren't like so aggressively competitive. It's not like a top tier list, and there's not like a top tier list that you're concerned about playing against. Because if you're playing Traitor and then the top tier list is a Magnus list, then you're never going to go up against that.
Right. I feel that, like, and maybe there was some discussion about this, that people think they're going to be bringing more Primarchs and stuff back in 40K, and that everything is going to eventually be kind of higher, more high powered, and that it's going to like almost not. I don't want to say resemble Horus Heresy, but a part of me thinks that they're going again towards maybe a civil war type of a thing, and if they are going to bring back more Primarchs or whatever into the event, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think everything getting power boosted is a bad thing. I think that would make for a really interesting game. I mean, obviously, people say that that's what 30K is. Like everything is powerful, basically.
Yeah, I can see that everything is lethal, and that might be what makes it so there's not so much there's not like a clear-cut winner, is that everything is so lethal that usually your best units end up being stuff that's like the most survivable. Like Sekhmet and Fire Drakes are both really good Terminators because they're 2-wound Terminators that have 3-up invul saves. So that just makes them inherently really, really survivable. And since everything is so lethal, it like doesn't usually matter how glass cannony you are if you're not getting the right drop. So the capacity to retaliate is really, really important. Yeah,
that's cool, man. I definitely need to play more. I think that, and you guys, of course, stay tuned, because that's something that we want to build upon, and I think that we can get more of an attention going toward the Horus Heresy events and all the Horus Heresy stuff. We're going to depart from that now, and I want to talk for a moment, because everyone's been talking about this, and I want to say something just as far as like the hobby community goes. I have not made statements on this. I haven't made any statements about this on the page. I haven't made any statements about it on the Facebook page, the website, like nothing. But it is being talked about, and I do want to briefly at least address sort of the topic. And I don't know, it might hurt some feelings or whatever. People might get a little butthurt based on the opinions, but when have I ever really cared about that, I guess. So, but the conversation lately has shifted and turned to like hobby representation, and people have been talking lately about being in a more inclusive hobby, having representation through models and everything like that. And I want to say that I generally, everybody, of course, always tries to make these things when they happen about politics and size on politics, and it gets from the gaming it seeps into the gaming lives of us, and everyone just kind of who doesn't really care about politics at all always rolls their eyes, or like oh shit, like here we go again. But I want to say that generally, as somebody who would be considered left of Bernie Sanders politically, I more often than not, will say that there's a point to be made for people saying what they say. And of course, women who do content creation, women in gaming or in predominantly male-dominated, hobbies or media, or whatever the case may be. I really honestly don't know. I don't know why it would really to the core piss somebody off that they talk about like experiences, or they talk about things where they get a lot of negativity or hatred, and stopping that. I don't know why people I'm not able to wrap my brain around why people have a problem with that in particular. I don't get it. Like, it doesn't even hurt you or affect you in any way for you to get that upset over that kind of stuff. And then the other thing about it was like lore changing. Like, oh, we don't want to touch, or we don't want to change the lore. Like, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Shawn, right? You've seen any of this shit?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's coming up, especially they're talking about bringing more female representation and having more like ethnic diversity in characters and whatnot. And I know I've read it.
I don't know, man. I mean, what's your take on it? Like, you could disagree with me. I don't fucking know.
I mean, to be fair, like as a black male, I've already decided, like if I were to do a guard army, every so many of my guys would just be black. Like that's just like how I see it. And if you paint your guys and don't have a single black person, honestly, I don't care. Like,
right.
It's whatever. That's your army. That's how you want to do it. Granted,
how do you feel about like people saying that they should like they need to be giving them the option for like female representation with the models? Like I don't know what that really means necessarily. I'm not sure if they're talking about like female heads on models or if they're
like
just
on like female space marines and whatnot. Because
yeah,
sort of respected the newer, not like newer, but within the last year or two, Tau kits that did have female heads.
Right.
I think that's pretty cool, and it just helps to break up the models. Like I took one of those heads off of the ghost kill suit, and I just put it on one of my sergeants because all my sergeants have the same heads. And
right. I don't have any problems with female space. Maybe I just don't give a shit. I don't know. Like, I think that's what it is. I think I just like don't like. Sure, like why the fuck not?
And if people that want to really get into the lore, like you can't at the same time defend the lore that Space Marines can only be males because that's how the Emperor made them. Well, the Emperor definitely didn't intend for freaking Chimeras Marines to exist.
Well, a lot of if you ask Jake says that's techno heresy.
I mean, I guess arguably it is, but so is like the whole Emperor as a divine being. He wouldn't be pleased to wake up and hear about all that nonsense.
Hey man, easy on the Inquisition.
I'm just saying.
You and Jake on hating on the Inquisition, man.
I have a lot of respect for the Inquisition. I just think that they might not have the best grip of what the Emperor actually wants.
Listen, we do what we have to with the times, with the hand we're dealt.
But yeah, I mean, if you can create new, better, best Marines, then like, why can't you increase, the selectants for the additional 50% population? So like, lore-wise, that argument just doesn't really hold up that much.
Yeah,
it's never been like actually defined.
I guess people, I don't know. I kind of watched some people that made some videos for arguments of why, and people had like cited Gamergate and this kind of stuff. And again, I explained to people like where my generally my view on that sort of stuff lies. And to be perfectly honest, especially with like the Gamergate stuff, I thought both sides were so out of control ridiculous. Like it got so out of control ridiculous.
I think that tends to detract from issues as well. Like that just happens all the time.
And I also think
it's starting to happen now in a weird way. It's like people are crusading for it so hard, and at the same time, people are so resistant to it that it's just like, wow, this is just a ridiculous argument to begin with.
Right.
Like, if you don't like it, don't model your characters that way. I mean, and I can understand from a financial standpoint that I'm not choosing to have every single Space Marine kit also come with a Space Marine that has breasts.
But see, is that like, I mean, maybe that's where I'm lost also, is like, what do people want as far as representation? You know what I mean? Like, is it the, like, the do they want Space Marines with more sister-esque looking armor as well? I mean, what does that look like? I don't know that I've read anywhere that anyone's defined that yet.
And arguably, I'm actually against that. Like, I think bootplate is not how female breastplate has ever been, even among like warrior cultures. So
yeah,
is that what we're doing? Is two boobs? It's not really like how it looked to begin with. So there'd be little difference, to be completely honest. Like, what are we doing, crafting kits on these Marines?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying like the only thing I can think of is that it would be like model head, basically.
I wouldn't hate that. I had nothing against that. Like guard, though, I can understand how a regiment or a battalion of guard is like a million dudes. So like,
yeah,
it would make sense that a decent amount of them would be female, and it's depicted like that in the books. So I do think like having plenty of female options for like Imperial Guard makes sense. Yeah,
I think that would be totally cool. I think that would look, that'd be great. Like they likened it to making these jokes about like feminids and they're just invading it again and everyone's gonna like ruin everything. Like, man, like I hear that's just like shut up. Like, no, like you're going too far. Like, I honestly, and again to reference that Gamergate bullshit, it was like Anita Sarkeesian and the Sargon guy who I disagree with about like on pretty much everything. Because he said some really awful shit over the time that he's been doing his YouTube channel, but like they're almost both sides of like a super ugly bully shitty coin. Like I know I was also super mad. I saw that Anita lady like was super shitty to this YouTuber who I really like called Boogie2988. Like she was super shitty to him. And it's just like, look at these ridiculous people. Like you sit back and you're like, look at these freaking ridiculous people. And now like you see a little bit of that mounting with tabletop gaming. But people also don't realize that like if you are a woman and you're doing stuff like gaming media, like the hate, the vitriol that you get, it is 100% on a different level. I think everybody, like the internet can be an awful place anyway. It is an awful place. Like, and as far as like fame or any kind of notoriety goes, like it'll be always, I think, inherently a little bit toxic. But like what women who are content creators have to deal with is different than what like a guy has to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially in the gaming community, because how many years? 25 years it's been a boys' club. Whether that's tabletop gaming or video, it's always just been a boys' club. And some men feel threatened by it. They honestly do.
Yeah. See, I don't understand that. Like, and I don't know, like if I could sit down with somebody and be like for real, like I want to know why you feel the way you do on this. I don't understand, and have them like explain it in a rational way. And I've tried to watch, YouTube videos on it and stuff, and it still doesn't resonate. Like it doesn't make sense to me. So whatever.
Because it's not rational.
Maybe, and that's just probably it. But so anyway, I mean, I didn't really want to make any statements about it. Like I said, when everyone was also, and the last thing I wanted to say about this was just that I think it's a little bit funny that when stuff like this does crop up, people do start to make statements because it's popular and it's the popular thing to do. So they want to like be like, look at me, I'm so progressive and I choose their side. And I'm not going to name any names here, but like I saw an article shared from one place where, I get a message almost every day talking about how shitty these people are and how they preyed on women, and an article out about, rah, like we're so progressive and we're on the right side of this argument. Like people just do all that stuff. And that kind of pisses me off because it's like, it's just so media fake. And, I can't stand that kind of bullshit.
I agree. People just jump on it. And, it's the whole positive press thing.
Not me. I'm a confrontational person.
Don't shy away from it.
Never, ever. So yeah, that's enough of that topic. But I don't know. It was a thing, so we probably should have talked about it at least a little bit. But there's some stuff coming out in the 40K world. We just saw that Craft World Eldar. We've got the Inari and the couple of the other ones have now leaked. All their stuff looks pretty darn good. Bikes are back. We saw the leak for that. I don't play Eldar, and we don't have a lot of Eldar players. We have maybe 2 players that play Eldar predominantly. I think it'll be interesting to see what these armies do in a competitive environment. It looks to be now, the way I'm seeing GTs be structured, that tournament organizers are starting to outright ban and restrict Forge World at tournaments. And I know that at Glass City, that is one thing that was a big topic of conversation. And initially, I myself was resistant to that, but I think that it is the right way to go. I think that until Forge World does the rules overhaul, which we put out that news from the live Q&A session or live Twitch feed session that they were doing with Forge World, talking about how they're going to do rules overhauls and change everything and basically redo the indexes. Once that happens, I think that banning, restricting Forge World really is the right way to go. I'll tell you this much too. Shooting it over back to 30K, I think that it'll be real interesting to see once they do make the shift for 8th edition for 30K, how the stuff like that is going to play into, the rule set for you guys. Because obviously, templates are going to be probably gone, like they also are in regular 8th edition. You're going to miss templates, right?
Yeah, I enjoy them. I get that they take up time, extra time, but I'm gonna enjoy them. I also know that if that rule book is coming out next month, they cannot be in any position really to have already overhauled all of the Horus Heresy stuff. And Angelus is getting released in the same edition, so
right.
We got some time, but that's why I'm double dipping. I'm in both systems. That way, it's not a painful shift for me. But on what you were originally talking about with tournament bannings and whatnot, we just had a local GT today, Cornhusker, for 8th edition, and I know the TO for that, and he did 0 to 1 choice on, I believe, Forge World selections.
0 to 1?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you can only bring it.
Which, by the way, in case anyone was wondering how that's spelled, that's KHORN Husker, Cornhusker, which I think is hilarious.
It's pretty clever. I like it a lot. And then they also, I don't know if you've mentioned that at all, but they were limiting the amount of detachments. So at a specific event, you could run still 3 detachments, but you couldn't take a duplicate.
See, I like that. I like that.
It's over some of the weird spam stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when you're, especially with the demons, oh my God. The horror lists were pretty insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also just the sheer amount of command points that people were able to abuse with that as well was pretty ridiculous. I think that it's the right direction, and I think it'll be interesting to see how these games play out. Of course, we are going to be at the Glass City GT. That's going to be in February of 2018. So we're going to have a casting desk set up there. And ideally, I'd like to have a casting desk in space also at Adepticon. I still got to email them to maybe figure that out. So we're definitely going to be doing that. Speaking of Adepticon, though, what's going on heresy-wise at Adepticon?
I'm actually super pumped about it. The guys that run Heresy down at Nova are again taking up the mantle to run a narrative over the entire weekend.
Oh, okay, that's pretty sweet.
And then Ryan Kimmel over at Radio Free Istvan is going to be helping out with a more generic Heresy day on Thursday, from what I know. And then it looks like there's smaller battles, 1,500 points and whatnot, on Thursday, moving into a 2,000 point Highlander, which is interesting. It actually prompted a little bit of backlash from some of the Heresy community.
Why is that?
Sorry.
Why is that?
Well, 2,000 points is a little low. It's kind of surprising. But we understand manageable games in a tournament in a timed setting, is definitely key.
Right.
It's, I don't know, 2,500 is what we usually play. When I'm playing locally, we do 2,500 or we do 3,000. And we never really have issues with the games. It's just a lot of stuff is super killy and a lot of stuff costs a lot of points.
Right. I actually think 2,000 is a little bit low for 40K now, to be honest.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because you can't take a full house of Cerastus Knights anymore. He's laughing, but come on, man. I want to, why can't I be able to take a night house? I should be able to take a full night house.
Actually, I kind of agree with that. Because I think at 2,000 points, a night house is almost not feasible in 30K, or at least a decent one.
Right.
Running a weird four night list.
I mean, I can fit 4 nights. I can fit maybe even 5 in a list. But at that point, I'm taking bare bones, stripped down knights, and they don't do as well. And I want to say something else about the knights close combat stuff. and I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I feel like Titanic feet attacks are better than the big old fuck off chainsword attack. Like, that's ridiculous.
20 feet is really good, actually. That was like one of the first things I noticed looking over those indexes. I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah, you might as well kick him in the shins. Like, don't use your chainsword. Just kick him in the shin a bunch of times, and you're going to do damage and wound him. So, I don't know, man. It's just weird. Like, I feel like the Knights really kind of haven't got the love they deserved as of yet. So I think that as things go on, and maybe that'll improve with the Forge World rules redos and stuff, I don't know, but they put Knights in the AdMech Codex, so they can't. I figure they can't change things too much, or they can't change point cost too much. So maybe we are just gonna sit around the standard 2,000 points for a tournament. I don't know.
It seems like it's been the standard for a little while, but I'm not sure either. I know locally we were playing 1850 for a really long time prior to 8th Ed coming out.
Yeah.
I was happy to see it go back up to 2,000.
1850 was the standard I got into the game at, playing 7th. But at least with 40K, you could make fairly with the formations and all that stuff, and everything in 7th being pretty undercosted anyway, according to people's opinion. You could make a pretty decent list. I mean, there were guys that would take a 195-point Wraith Knight in a 1,000-point game.
Oh yeah, I mean, I made some pretty ridiculous small lists because I played since 3rd, and mostly like 4th is when I got in, and I noticed like instant shift, especially from like 5th over to 7th. And like suddenly my army just was almost like 1,500 points was like my 2,000 point list. I just had so much more to buy all of a sudden.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like the way these, I think that it's kind of weird right now for like pickup games as well. Like when we're talking about doing a pickup game, whether it's going to be like 1,000 or 1,500 points. I feel like anytime that I want to play a 1,000-point game, especially with my Space Marines, if I'm not using Gilliman or anything, like it's just hampered. You're hampered by a lot. Like it's very hard to make a 1,000-point list that's going to do really, really good against stuff for Space Marines or Tyranids or anything without a dex, really. And the Imperial Fists, I mean, like they're in the Space Marine Codex, but I still don't think they're up to snuff because they're not Ultramarines, and basically you have to take Gilliman to do good. So it's just sort of boring right now. Tau obviously don't have their Codex either, but they're also it's kind of a boring way to play it. It's been commander spam, and units like the Riptide and even the Storm Surge, they're not like what they were. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that book. I'll be really having my eyes peeled on what they do with that book, because I think a lot of Tau players are salty at the moment, and like rightfully so, because they're forced to play their army in a certain way if they want to be winning games. And I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, we're on the topic of codexes. You had mentioned that you wanted to talk about the Imperial Guard one. But
yeah, so I think that Valhallans are looking pretty good. If I had to put my money on rule sets that I liked the most, I would say that maybe the Valhallans are up there with what I was looking at. Artillery is still great. I think that if you build an army around artillery, you're going to have, a great turnout at the events and everything. The thought was that conscripts, like it's not going to necessarily be worth it to do the 120 conscripts anymore. Adding a little bit more variance to building the lists, which I also liked. So somebody who doesn't have guard or doesn't play guard pretty regularly, it'll be interesting to see what people take with that and what they do with it. There's so many. We have kind of a lot of guard players, I feel like, around my area. So I don't know what it's like for your guys' local meta over there, but
not as many guard players, but we're pretty varied for the most part. we've got the few people that run the top tier lists, and then we've got a lot of people that just kind of have stuck to their faction. There's a bunch of Tau that are, like you said, salty and we've got regard, but it's not overwhelming by any means.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially because the stuff I played my Tau real weird. I actually took that formation, the Tidewall Rampart, and that like the base that like moves. So I played them with that, and the formations are gone. So it's just basically a disjointed thing now.
I honestly sold my Tau when 8th came out.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
You were like, well, this makes it extra not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I was already like not having a lot of fun with them just to begin with. They're a little like point and click, and then so like the indexes came out. I looked over them and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I really even want to be doing this anymore, and pretty much sold them off for Tyranids.
Well, I mean, you don't like commander spam is boring as hell, to be honest.
Yeah, it looked super boring.
Yeah, it's just not a good time. I mean, I don't know. People bitched about the Riptide wings and stuff, but I really like if you had a top tier army, like you could deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the top events in 7th, like guys would even have trouble with Tau that did run Riptide wings. So,
yeah. I really just was a little bummed, like just to get like a little nostalgic, that Trader Legions codex came out so right before 8th, because I feel like that was one of the best codexes they've ever released.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I do remember that coming out too.
Yeah, it wasn't even that long. I mean, like it really wasn't that long ago comparatively.
Huh.
And they were like reset button.
Yeah, but
and I do think the Chaos Space Marine one is good. Like I'm not really harking on that. I'm sure it's already got its love and its talk.
Right. Yeah, people seem to think that was a pretty good book. Yeah, man, I'm patiently waiting. I'm patiently waiting for my nids. I played a game with my Tyranids today, and I took 60 Gene Stealers. Let me just tell you guys that 60 Gene Stealers, when used correctly, is absolutely disgusting. It is 110% totally disgusting. I was playing Eldar. And he was a newer player to 8th edition. He's been playing a while. It was a good game. We actually had to stop mid-game, so we didn't have like a really win-or-loser turnout because we were just about to get into it, and then I had to go. I had an appointment that I had to get to. But, yeah, like, what's that?
Did you bring a Broodlord?
I did bring a Broodlord. It was a Broodlord and a Swarm Lord were my HQs. And and then we were playing 1,400 points. I took 60 Gene Stealers, and then I took a Carnifex.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I guess that's kind of a mean list for 1,400 points.
It kind of is, actually.
He was kind of surprised. Like, the thing that kind of sucked for him is that there was a lot of terrain on the board, and I was hiding my Gene Stealers really, really well. And basically just blobbing them up behind cover. And when I advanced them, I rolled like a 5 every time, so they were moving like 13 inches. So they were just able to go right across the board and then charge. Like it was pretty bullshit on his end. So
they're kind of wacky as is. I enjoy them. I was running a list with 2 Brood Lords and a Swarm Lord, and then like 80 Gene Stealers. And some Biovores, I think.
Oh yeah, those guys. I like those guys, but everyone keeps telling me they're not quite as good as I first imagined. Because aren't they like strength 5, right?
Yeah, but I still think their guns are really pretty decent.
How much damage does a Biovore do?
I don't have it.
I want to say it's like D3. Does that sound right?
I think it's D3.
Okay.
And then if they miss with the shot, they make the little mine.
Oh, the Spore Mine.
Because the mine kind of like messes with smite spam a bit, because suddenly the mine is the closest thing to your smite.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
That's before the shooting phase.
I did not know that mines could not hold objectives. I was a total noob mistake by me.
Mines have been able to hold objectives, to be honest with you.
I mean, come on, damn it! Like Why not? Like they're autonomous enough that they can like deep strike in and float around and move around. Like it moves.
If I can hold an objective, then why can't a mine?
Yeah, damn, that's exactly my point. Which I'm also salty. Here's some more salt we're gonna sprinkle into the wounds. That drop pods are so bad now. Although
They were so good.
they were so good. I mean, but it was very risk reward, and that's what I liked about it. Like, I wanted my shit to potentially go off the table and kill everything, but like if I deep struck it like right into the units on the other side of the table, it was like utterly awesome.
Hey man, come to Heresy with those drop pods. That is a powerful list right now.
I should.
That's where all the, in my opinion, that's where a lot of the custody salt comes from, because a lot of people build drop assault lists and custodies wreck that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look, what you don't want to do is land next to custody.
Yeah, because they want to get up in your shit anyway.
Yeah, and seeing as you can't just charge straight out of a drop pod, because you can't charge out a deep strike.
Well, they don't in 30K. They don't have the formations like they did with 40K, right?
Yeah, no, they don't have anything like that.
Because that people hated me for that playing that shit, man. Like I ran that Angels of Death formation. What the hell is it called? The Skyhammer Annihilation Force.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Oh my god, man! I loved it though. It was so fun to play, and it was like fluffy and like amazing.
Those are the worst. Those are the ones that people don't like, is when they can't even argue that you're just like a cheesehead who's not playing fluff.
Right, like it felt like Space Marines, and I just assaulted Tau turn 1, and they just cried.
But yeah, no, drop pod assault is like a pretty good army, and like I said, I think that was why the Arrival of Custodes really like upended that, because you don't want to get those. You need to constantly be moving away.
Well, and that's the problem we've got on the 40K end, is that you can't get them across the board without them getting shot and dying. Like, they have no way to fly in. They've got no way to deep strike in. You basically pile them in a Land Raider, and you pray to God Emperor that your Land Raider doesn't get popped before it gets to where it needs to.
Yeah, that really does kind of bum me out that they don't translate even like. I feel like it's opposite ends of the spectrum. They're pretty garbage in 40K, and
they didn't like in 7th. I was kind of like, okay. Like, yeah, Talons of the Emperor, not looking too bad. And then, like, 8th drops, I'm like, oh, fuck. Like,
I think Sisters are okay. I think they are.
The Sisters of Silence, yeah. How would you... Well, see, I wanted to build a list with Sisters of Silence for the big null field effect and be like, yeah, fuck you, Magnus armies and, Butte Gillimans. And, but then somebody did a list with the assassins, the Urvisor assassins, and like did what I wanted to do better, and like took 5 of them and like spread it out. Maybe you could run the list with the assassins and the sisters. I don't know.
There's a pretty mean assassins list that's been running around. It's like 16 assassins or something. Like that.
16.
I think that's about right. You run 3 copies of the same detachment.
Of what? Like an Outrider detachment?
Is that the one with the leads?
I think so. I just know it's like...
so it lets you get like 5 elites or whatever.
Oh, man, no, that's not that one. I think that was the Outriders with the fast attacks or whatever.
I think the assassins are elites. Yeah, if you run that... Well, I don't remember what it's called, the detachment. But yeah, you run 3 of those, and you run several Calexis, and then a bunch of Eversors, and a bunch of Calidus. A lot of the Calidus ones.
That's what it is. The what's the psychic one?
Calexis.
The Calexis, yeah. That's what I was talking about. They put the Calexis assassins in there and then spread them out.
Because I think it's the Calexis or the Calidus that you only hit on 6s.
Yeah.
So then, like a drop pod army. Oh, everybody lands in the drop pod. We're -1 to hit. Oh, we can't hit that army.
Right.
And my heavy weapons that moved. Oh, we can't hit that army. And then they line it up. So it's a nasty list.
There was one time I did that. Now, I showed my opponent my list, but there was one time I did the Skyhammer Force on Tyranids, and they had a bunch of gaunts that like couldn't shoot my drop pods, so they couldn't pop the drop pods. Because they like couldn't hurt it,
That's awesome.
Because it's like armor. It was armor 12 all the way around, or something stupid like that.
Do anything.
Yeah. So I actually thought that was kind of a bad Bears. Like, I didn't mean to be that shitty, like, at that time. I just didn't know that was going to occur. I was still a neophyte. So I was like, man, this kind of sucks for you.
This doesn't look like it's very fun for you.
Yeah, I hate that feeling. Like, I don't ever want to be that guy. I always believe in, like, telling my opponent for pickup games what I'm going to bring to a game. You know, and let them plan accordingly. But yeah, I mean, I think there's good stuff coming. I think that the codexes that they're coming out with are going to bring everything up to par and hopefully really just smooth out 8th edition. You know, I went through sort of a roller coaster of my opinion on 8th edition because when it was first all being leaked and released, I was the biggest advocate, and I was like, this is going to be the biggest, best edition ever, and everyone's going to just love it, and you naysayers need to be quiet. And then I went through a phase where I'm like, this is all garbage and sucks, and I hate it, and I want my templates back, and I want my formations back. And now I'm sort of back to the, like, okay, well, the codexes are coming out, and everything is going to be back to where it needs to be and be smoothed out and be fine. So I think it'll be okay. It will be okay, gamers. Like, we're going to have armies that are reasonably balanced, and I think everything will work itself out in that regard. I think I think that 30K will always be more balanced than 40K, though.
In a way, it's like inherent, though. I mean, if everyone's pulling out of the same book, it's hard to make it more.
Right.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of hope for the direction that 8th is going in. I think fixing the detachments thing would be huge, and then letting Portugal overhaul to their bizarre rules. Always what they do. They always make bizarre rules decisions.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Unless you got anything more you want to add, Sean.
No, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. As always, please assault the like, share, and subscribe button, and follow us on all of the junk on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all that good stuff. Keep an eye out for projects we got planned in the future. Again, hitting back on that, we talked about some things we want to do for Horus Heresy. We're planning to be at lots of events. The upcoming Glass City GT by the Toledo Game Room, we're going to be there with the cast desk. We've got Zach from Manbeard Painting joining us, who's going to be painting on Twitch. We've got some updates with that. We're going to have Twitch rewards, points that you can get just by being in the Twitch chat and viewing the Twitch stream. That you're going to be able to use those for special rewards and all that kind of good stuff. So we got a lot of stuff coming, and of course, Sean, if you guys have any ideas or want to do that, if you have stuff that you want to do on the Twitch stream, I'm open to that as well. So
I'd be willing to definitely jump on, especially if you're doing like the hobby time.
But yeah, hobby hangouts are another good thing that we like to do. So we got all kinds of good stuff coming. So thanks for joining us, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see you later.